All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going to be talking about scavenger birds. You know, those guys you see circling up above or sometimes picking at something a little less appealing on the side of the road. You must have some fascinating sources on them,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. They might not have the best PR, but their role in the ecosystem, it's crucial.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I mean, I know they're a part of the natural cycle and all, but I'm ready to, go a little deeper. What exactly are we going to uncover about these unsung heroes in this deep dive?
Well, we're going to explore the hidden benefits, like how they control disease, how they manage waste, even some surprising connections to scientific research. And we'll even touch on how they've been seen in different cultures throughout history.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So let's start with the basics. We all know they eat, well, dead animals, but why is that so important for the ecosystem? It's got to be more than just, cleaning up the gross stuff.
Yeah. You got it. Think of them as nature's cleanup crew. They're constantly working to make sure harmful pathogens don't build up. Imagine a world without them. Rotting carcasses everywhere, attracting disease-carrying bugs and rodents. Yikes.
Okay, yeah. That's a pretty disturbing image. But are they really that important? Couldn't other animals or even natural processes just take care of that?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Vultures, especially, are incredibly efficient. Their stomach acid is so strong it can neutralize dangerous bacteria. Stuff like anthrax and botulism, stuff that would be deadly to a lot of animals, including us.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about getting rid of the carcasses. It's about making sure those nasty pathogens are neutralized before they can spread. That's a huge service they're providing and for free.
Right. And when their populations decline, we see the consequences, like your sources mentioned what happened in India, right?
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
The vulture population dropped, and then suddenly there were way more feral dogs,
Yeah.
which led to a huge increase in rabies cases.
That's a scary example of how connected everything is. Fewer vultures, more feral dogs, more rabies. It's a domino effect that really makes you think about how much these birds are actually affecting our well-being.
Yeah, it really underscores the importance of understanding and protecting them. And while vultures might be the superstars of carcass disposal, we can't forget about other scavenger birds, like crows and ravens.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. What's their role in this whole balancing act?
They're adaptable. Think of them as like urban recyclers. Roadkill, farm waste, even our leftovers, they'll eat it all. They might not have the super stomach power of vultures, but they clean up a lot of waste, especially in cities and towns.
Right. So while the vultures are handling the heavy duty stuff, the crows and ravens are making sure the streets and fields stay tidy. It's a team effort, but let's face it, there's still that ick factor, right?
I get it. It's not the prettiest sight.
Yeah, seeing them picking at roadkill or digging through garbage isn't exactly
I
charming.
understand.
Think-
But there's more to it than that. Scavenger birds have been important in cultures for centuries. Like in ancient Egypt, the vulture was a symbol of motherhood and protection. They were even linked to a goddess, Nekbet.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that. It's amazing how differently they were viewed back then. Weren't ravens seen as tricksters in some Native American stories?
Exactly. They represented intelligence and adaptability. And even the Andean condor, the one with the huge wings soaring over the Andes Mountains, it's a symbol of power and freedom in Andean cultures.
Wow, so many different perceptions. We might find them a little off-putting, but throughout history they've been seen as symbols of strength, wisdom, even divinity. It really makes you think about how we judge the natural world. We only see things from our limited perspective.
Right. And it goes beyond just culture, too. One of the things that really surprised me was learning how scavenger birds, especially vultures, are contributing to scientific research.
Really, that's fascinating. What kind of research are we talking about?
Well, scientists are studying their disease resistance. Remember that super strong stomach acid we talked about?
Hmm.
They're trying to figure out how vultures can eat all that bacteria-filled stuff and not get sick,
Oh.
hoping to learn about, immune function and disease resistance, stuff that could help humans, too.
So vultures might hold the key to like new treatments or cures for diseases that affect us. That's an incredible legacy for a bird that most people just think of as a scavenger.
It is. And they're also helping us understand how diseases spread. Their scavenging habits make them like perfect subjects for studying how diseases move through ecosystems.
Right. And that can help us with disease control and prevention.
Exactly. They're like living laboratories.
I was reading about this idea of bioindicators, and I was really fascinated by it. Can you tell me more about that?
A bioindicator is it's like a species that shows us how healthy the environment is, like a canary in a coal mine, but for whole ecosystems. If scavenger birds are doing well, it probably means the environment is healthy. But if their numbers are dropping, well, that's a warning sign.
So they're sending us a message about the planet's health, and that brings us back to the whole diclofenac poisoning issue. That was a tragic example of how our actions can have unintended consequences.
Yeah. The diclofenac crisis was a devastating reminder that we're all connected, even to creatures that seem insignificant. It's a powerful lesson in how we need to be responsible for the environment.
Yeah, it's really hard to think about all the vultures that were lost because of diclofenac. It shows how even when we think we're doing something good, we can still accidentally harm the environment.
Yeah, it's a tough lesson. But before we get too focused on the problems, I think it's worth talking about. But what makes these birds, so good at what they do?
Right. What makes a scavenger bird a scavenger bird? What are their special skills?
Well, vultures, for example, they have an amazing sense of smell. I mean, they can smell carrion from miles away. They have this super developed olfactory system. It's like it's like having a built-in GPS for finding food.
Oh, wow. So that's why you see them circling so high up. They're not just enjoying the view, they're sniffing out their next meal.
Exactly. And once they find it, their digestive systems are incredible. We talked about their stomach acid, how it kills all those dangerous bacteria, but they have other adaptations too, not just in their stomachs.
Okay, I'm all ears. What else helps them deal with those, well, less than fresh meals?
Well, have you ever noticed how most vultures have those featherless heads and necks?
Yeah, I always thought that looked kind of strange.
It might look weird,
Mm.
but it's actually pretty smart. You see, without feathers, all those bacteria and other nasty stuff, it can't stick to their skin while they're eating. So
Mhm.
so it's easier to stay clean and avoid infections.
Ah, that makes sense. So it's like a built-in cleaning system. Nature is so clever. And their beaks, they're definitely designed for the job, right?
Definitely. Strong and hooked, perfect for tearing through flesh and bone. I mean, they can
Bah.
handle even the toughest carcasses. They're like like nature's demolition crew.
It's incredible how every part of them is made for scavenging. But vultures aren't the only ones, right? Crows and ravens, they're great scavengers too, but they don't have those bald heads.
Right. Crows and ravens, they might not be as specialized as vultures when it comes to carrion, but they are incredibly adaptable,
Yeah.
and smart. I mean, they're known for their problem-solving skills, and they can eat just about anything.
Oh yeah, I've seen those videos of crows using tools to get food. It's amazing how intelligent they are.
They're resourceful. Their beaks are strong, so they can crack open nuts, go through trash, even steal food from other animals. They've figured out how to live in cities. You know, they're constantly adapting, finding new ways to survive.
So it's not just about physical adaptations. It's about intelligence and adaptability too. Crows and ravens have the brains and the skills. And didn't we read something about their social behavior? Doesn't that help them scavenge too?
You're right. Crows and ravens, they gather in big flocks, and this lets them share information about where to find food,
Right.
and they can work together. Outcompete other scavengers. It's a team effort.
Wow. So all these things, a good sense of smell, a featherless head, hanging out in groups, they all add up to make them really successful. But knowing how important they are to the planet, it makes me even more worried about the threats they face.
I understand, but
Yeah.
the more we know, the better we can protect them.
Okay, so let's go back to those threats. We talked about habitat loss, poisoning, collisions with buildings and things like that. Which one is the biggest problem right now for scavenger birds?
It's hard to say, really. It depends on the species and the location. But I'd say poisoning, especially from lead and those veterinary drugs like diclofenac, that's a major issue in a lot of places.
We've talked about diclofenac, but what about lead poisoning? How are scavenger birds exposed to that?
Well, lead, it's a heavy metal, it's toxic, and it can build up in the environment. A lot of it comes um, from ammunition,
Yes.
the stuff used for hunting or shooting. So when a scavenger bird eats a carcass that has lead fragments in it, they ingest the lead. and that can make them really sick, even kill them.
So even though lead shot isn't used as much anymore, it's still out there. It's like a hidden danger.
Exactly. And it's tricky because lead poisoning can be hard to diagnose. It looks like other illnesses, so it's hard to know for sure what's wrong and how to treat it.
That's sad. And are there other drugs besides diclofenac that are dangerous for them?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
There are other what they call NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory
Hmm.
drugs. They're used to treat um, pain and inflammation in livestock, but
Yeah.
they can be toxic to vultures and other scavenging birds. It shows how we really need to think about the impact of the medications we use. It's not just about the animals we're trying to treat.
It's about the whole ecosystem, right? But are people working on safer alternatives?
Yes, thankfully, scientists and pharmaceutical companies are trying to develop drugs that are safe for vultures, but we need more research and people need to start using them.
Okay, that's good to hear. What about those other threats like habitat loss and those collisions? Is anything being done about those?
Habitat loss, that's a tough one. We need to protect the habitats that are left, try to restore the ones that have been damaged, and think about how we use land in a more sustainable way. It's about making sure scavenger birds have the space and the resources they need.
Right. It's about planning for the future.
And for collisions, there are a few things being done. For power lines, you can mark them with bird diverters or put the cables underground so birds don't fly into them. And for wind turbines, you can choose locations carefully and use radar to detect birds, to try to prevent them from getting
It's
hit.
amazing how technology can help.
It can, but it's not enough on its own. We need people to be aware of the problem. We need changes in laws and policies, and countries need to work together. It's a big problem.
So it's about science and policy and people working together to find solutions. This whole deep dive has really shown me how balanced the ecosystem is and how important these birds are, even though we don't always see it.
That's right. Protecting scavenger birds, it takes all of us working together. We need to understand their importance and take responsibility for how we affect them.
Wow. I can't believe how much we've learned about these birds. I mean, I never realized how much they do for the planet, from disease control to scientific research. It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much more to learn about scavenger birds and how they fit into everything.
Well, I'm ready for more. What what else can we discover in this last part of our deep dive?
I want to challenge something. You know how people usually don't think of scavenger birds as beautiful?
Well, yeah, I have to admit beautiful isn't the first word that comes to mind. They're definitely interesting, but beautiful.
I know, but beauty can be found in unexpected places. And scavenger birds, with all their strange adaptations and behaviors, they have a kind of rugged elegance. It's pretty captivating once you start to see it.
Okay, okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
Just imagine the Andean condor. Soaring on those thermals, its wings like 10 feet wide, just gliding effortlessly. Or picture a raven, its feathers all iridescent, shimmering in the sun as it flies. It might not be the typical kind of beauty, but it's definitely there.
I have to admit, when you see a group of vultures circling, it is kind of mesmerizing. They move so gracefully together. It's like a dance in the sky.
Exactly. And even their scavenging, people might think it's gross, but it's actually really efficient. They're like nature's recyclers, turning death back into life.
Yeah, they're part of that whole cycle. They break things down, they stop diseases from spreading, they help keep everything in balance. I guess beauty really is in the eye of the beholder, and once you realize how important they are, you start to see them differently.
I think you're right. And their role goes beyond just, cleaning up. They can actually affect how other animals behave
Right.
too.
Really? How so?
Well, vultures, with their incredible sense of smell, they can find carcasses really quickly, right? And that attracts other scavengers
Mm-hmm.
like hyenas and jackals. It's like the vultures are sending out a signal, letting everyone know where the food is.
So it's like a chain reaction. Vultures find the food, and then all the other scavengers come running.
Exactly. And that can change a lot of things in the ecosystem. It affects, who eats who, how seeds get spread around, even how things decompose.
It's amazing how these simple things can have such big effects. It really shows how connected everything is.
It does. And the more we study scavenger birds, the more we realize how complex they are, how much they influence things.
You mentioned earlier that scientists are doing research on scavenger birds right now. What are some of the big questions they're trying to answer?
Well, one thing they're looking at is how scavenger birds are adapting to, places that humans have changed,
Hmm.
like cities and farmlands.
Yeah.
It's important to understand how they're coping, especially as humans keep spreading out.
Yeah, it's like a giant experiment. Are they studying how climate change is affecting them too?
Oh, definitely. They're trying to figure out how climate change is changing their eating habits, their breeding, and even if they're able to survive, they're using all sorts of technology to get information.
What kind of technology?
Oh, things like DPS trackers, satellite, telemetry, even drones. It helps them track the birds, see if they're healthy, and learn how they interact with the environment.
So we're getting a bird's eye view of their world, and all this information, it helps us protect them, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. The more we know, the better we can make sure they're safe.
It's not just about keeping them safe from immediate threats, but also about helping them adapt and thrive in the future.
Exactly. We need to find ways for humans and wildlife to live together.
This whole deep dive it's been amazing. I have a whole new appreciation for these birds, and I feel like we have a responsibility to protect them.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, everything we do, even the small things, can make a difference.
I'm definitely gonna to tell people about this, about how important these birds are. We can all, use fewer chemicals, support conservation groups, and just share what we've learned.
That's great. They might not be the prettiest birds, but they're vital to the planet. They deserve our respect, our admiration, and our help.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of scavenger birds.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the world is full of amazing things, even in the most unexpected places. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep speaking up for the creatures we share this planet with.